If you could pick one superpower, what would it be?
Flying.
God,
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I got to teleport. I just have to get to the place I need to go.
Yeah.
Even though I like bussing, I would have still ridden on the bus down here. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't have just snapped my fingers. But in any other situation, I just want to be able to get there.
I
Commute, you know.
I wish there was an answer where it could be like, I want all the powers in one. If
Don't do
like
that.
One way to get
Don't
all
do
powers.
that.
But if I had to pick one superpower, it would. Immortality sounds great, but is it great? Do I want to live forever? You know, I see some of the decisions we make. I don't know if I want to live forever, but flight probably be the one. I think flight.
It'd be like Idiocracy if you lived forever, right? Like you would just be like, you'd be king of everything. Shortly.
Yeah. It'd be
smartest guy.
Well, it'd be like all the people you love around you, like eventually would die, like over and over again. There's a movie where he talks about that. He's like, it's terrible. He's like, I've got immortality. But, you know, would I be pissed about it? Probably not. Kansas is the national champions. With the NCAA violations getting announced, will it stand? We play Punt or Go, covering all the sports, and we make our bets as we stroll through the month of April. I'm Jay Crane, and welcome to Crane & Company. Last night, we were in attendance for a hell of a championship game. Kansas and North Carolina went back and forth. North Carolina jumped out to a big lead at halftime. Kansas was able to scramble back, go on an 11-0 run to start the second half, and end up winning the game to give the Jayhawks their 4th overall national title, to give Bill Self the title of winningest Kansas coach from a championship standpoint there has ever been in a litany of big-time Kansas coaches. But there is one over-glaring sentiment, or a dark cloud, I guess you could say, hanging over the Kansas program. In results of actions in 2019, 5 Level 1 violations, which is really labeled egregious by the NCAA, are still hanging over their head. Bill Self even announced this week he expects whatever punishment they will receive to happen very soon. While there's a ton of excitement, obviously, in the Kansas program with what just happened, hanging another banner, beating a blue blood like North Carolina, there's one major problem that we had last night. Mark Emmert and Bill Self had to pretend to like each other. We've all been there. The awkward, maybe there's a person you don't like in the same room as you, and you have to pretend to like them, or to, I guess, compensate for your dislike of them by pretending to like them. Watching Mark Emmert hand Bill Self a trophy was like trying to tell my mother-in-law the best things I can to get her to like me without knowing that I really don't like her, even though I do. He got referred to as the Kansas City Jayhawks, which was then corrected, and I understand sometimes people say the wrong things. But the bigger point to me is the NCAA drags its feet more than Charlie from Major Payne. They'll announce something, then 3, 4, 5 years later, they'll hit a school with penalties. And watching a team like Kansas, who was under investigation, we know the level of violations that have been put on them, winning a national championship while looking at the enforcement committee head, who's the head of everything, Mark Emmert, have to hand them the trophy and tell them how good they did, is the alternate taste of irony. Now, if you look, there are bills being proposed, and I agree with them, to shorten the lifespan that the NCAA has through an investigation. You're not going to be able to hold schools hostages for 4 or 5 years. You don't have to be Robert Downey Jr. from Sherlock Holmes to figure out some of these mysteries. The NCAA is just one of the worst organizations that there is when it comes to being efficient, treating everybody the same from a punishment standpoint, and just good old-fashioned common sense and getting things done. There's some other things in the bill that I think are going to help kind of curb the NCAA and the power they have as we move forward here. But as we move forward, I'm going to bring in David Cohn and Blaine Crane. Well, fellas, survived New Orleans on the bus tour 2022, coming at you early in the morning here on the pre-recorded show, mixing up a little bit. Had a great time. But Blaine, I'll start with you.
Yes.
Why does the NCAA, in your opinion, take so long to get some of these things announced? And how funny is it that Mark Emmert had to look Bill Self in his eyes last night and tell him, good job, bud. Here's the best trophy we got for basketball.
It's the ultimate irony, right? And when it comes to the NCAA, how long realistically does it take to do a thorough investigation, right? To get things right. Because I do think if you're going to do something and you're going to investigate, and if you want to get it right, I mean, it takes a certain amount of time to get that right. But does the NCAA drag their feet? Of course. It's
3 years?
Yeah. If the NCAA, if you expect the NCAA to do something right and in a quick matter, I mean, you're living in fairy tale land. It's just not going to happen. Is it funny that I got to watch Mark Emmert and Bill Self look each other in the eyes and act like I like you? It's like telling your girlfriend's dad that you like sports when you really don't, so you're just making stuff up when you get there. It's in that type of boat. But, I mean, am I surprised by this? No. Will this change? I do like the bill, but will this change to a certain extent with the NCAA? I don't think so.
I do think if it passes, they're going to have to.
It has to
legally,
help, right?
Because you're starting to get the Justice Department and stuff like that involved which
is sad that it's to that point.
Which is sad that it's to that point. But the NCAA, you want to talk about monopolies? I mean, they get $200 every time they pass go.
Well, that's the thing. And you don't have to be great at what you do when you have a monopoly because there's no competition. Sure. That's where, like, what we always talk about with the free market. I've had to go through at least one of these NCAA violation, review situations when I was at Michigan.
What'd you do, Cone?
I personally didn't do anything, but as a player, that makes it even worse because the situation was it was like about summer workouts or something like that. And it's like, they were wanting to know what were these mandatory or were they voluntary? It's like, look, man, it's mandatory voluntary.
Yeah, it's mandatorily
you
voluntary.
Have to be here getting better, or else, like, I don't want to be. I didn't know if I'd be penalized and not be able to play in a bowl game based off answers I'm getting, and they're talking to other guys on the team. But I'll digress from that. Look, we beat up the NCAA a lot, and as far as it relates to Kansas, if there was. They should receive a due punishment, like whatever they've done here. If it's worthy of stripping them of a national title, then do so. I don't know all the details right now, but as we sit here on this bus, they are national champions, okay? And no one can take that away in this moment right here. And just from a macro point of view, man, what an incredible tournament, an incredible Final Four, and a fantastic championship game. I mean, the three of us were sitting there hanging on our seats, down to the wire, down to the last shot, the electricity in the building. I was like honored and grateful to be present for that.
Yeah, and I want to get to the nuts and bolts of kind of what went down, but I do got to say, isn't it funny, and speaking about irony, isn't it funny that Kansas is about to get hit by the NCAA for giving kids money through Adidas reps? That's kind of how it works.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
But North Carolina and Duke, their kids really didn't even go to class. And they got away with it because that wasn't under the enforcement purview, which basically means like, oh, wait, your dad's the mayor? No speeding ticket for you. So we're going to punish Kansas for getting paid through an Adidas rep, but not punish North Carolina or Duke for kids not going to class or taking like stick figure drawing and majoring in it. Like, to me, it's the total opposite of what the college experience is. You're saying, no, you can't funnel payments to somebody, which is wrong. I get that. But we're going to let North Carolina and Duke slide for just not going to class. You guys don't have to go to class. Y'all can sit there and play 2K. Y'all can just dribble in the mirror for an hour and a half. I don't know.
This is why I'm interested to see really what happens with the G-League over the next 5 and 10 years. Because basketball is that type of sport that can have a semi-professional or a feeder league really work out for them. I want to see, do these kids coming out of high school, do they see college as exploitation? Do they not want?
Well, with NIL now, I think NIL was a great kind of, we use the term clapback to the G-League.
Okay, so that
college.
should solve the exploitation factor, but do they not want to go to class?
Yeah.
Do they not care about an education? Do they not have anyone in their lives who are telling them, listen, you probably need to have another skill set other than just basketball, no matter how good you are. When you watch something like, I remember like The Last Dance, right? Michael Jordan's mother was on there being interviewed, and she said, I was thrilled that Dean Smith wanted my son to come play basketball in North Carolina, but education needed to come first. You know, and he came from a strong household that was preaching that. And so when he gets on campus after hearing that from his mother and father throughout high school, obviously that person, that 18-year-old is going to take classes more seriously than someone who's not. So I'll be interested to see how the G League plays into this, and if more and more of these top recruits just start going straight to the G League rather than going to college.
Well, now with NIL, I mean, you know, a certain amount of money you get, most of the time those guys, if they're getting that type of money, they're not going to the G League. But a lot of it, kind of to your point, is now kids can say, I just want to go work on my skill set. That's it. I want to go do basketball. That's what I want to do. I go to the G League. I'm not worried about English. Not worried about, man, I got to turn in that paper for speech class.
And they can still sign endorsement
They can
deals.
still, look,
from alumni basis.
Yeah, look, the market's open, but the game last night started out, North Carolina had a lot of momentum. Baycott early, Manic early. You look at the rebounding difference. If you go back and really look at the numbers of this game in aggregate, if I just looked at it from afar and didn't watch the game, I'd have told you North Carolina won.
Yeah.
The amount of offensive rebounds, the way that Kansas shot, not only from the 3, but from the 2 and from the free throw line. You saw Kansas hop out early. I believe it was 5-0, 7-0, something like that. Then North Carolina hit a couple shots. But to me, a lot of this game changed when Caleb Love kind of rolled that ankle a little bit. Not that it was the biggest factor, but North Carolina gets up. They start running a little bit. Caleb Love hurts his ankle. Blaine in that first half. I always had a feeling Kansas was going to come back, but North Carolina looked like the aggressor, and Kansas just wasn't finishing at the rim.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they weren't getting good looks. It wasn't like they weren't running good stuff. It wasn't like they weren't getting in transition, which we know style makes fights, and both these teams want to get in transition. But Kansas wasn't finishing at the rim in the first half, whether it was Jalen Wilson, whether it was Braun. McCormick wasn't bad. Abaji hit that first 3. You know, it took them a little while to get going after that. But if Kansas would have finished at least half of their attempts that they should have made in that first half, I think it would have been a lot closer.
Yeah.
Well, you know, sometimes it takes a team a little bit longer to settle down, especially in a game of that high caliber. And I think a lot of the reasons that has to do was Leaky Black played most of that first half, and Leaky Black guard Abaji for most of that first half. Although when Abaji came out and hit that first 3, I was like, all right.
Yeah. Well, we all looked at each other.
Other than that, he clamped him, though.
Yeah, other than that. But then you go look at that second half, and Leaky caught that third foul pretty early and missed 6-7 minutes of that second half. When you go back and look, and I got to give you credit, your sneaky superstar, Remy Martin, came in the second. It wasn't Abaji, and this was kind of my thing with Abaji. In some big moments, he finds ways to disappear and let other guy take huge shots. Remy Martin was taking those shots and hitting
and making
those shots, threes. He hit that. He banked his first 3 in. I believe he airballed his next one, and then made 3 or 4 in a row, and they were timely, clutch shot. And I'll tell you what, McCormick for Kansas had 3 fouls longer than I've ever seen a player have 3 fouls and not pick up that fourth. I believe he picked up that fourth with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left in that game. And you see, I think Baycott, that ankle was showing early. That roll in that ankle was showing early. He was limping around. He played phenomenal. But you go back and look at this game, you know, and you really look at the numbers. You would think North Carolina won this game.
Yeah.
Kansas, you know, having those 2 seniors on that team for Kansas matters in games like this. Having that leadership, guys who've been there for that long, have been in these type of situations, have been in these type of games, and it plays off in the long run. And you saw that. And you saw Kansas come out in that second half. They didn't look scared of anything. They were going to get it. And it tells a lot about Bill Self and the halftime adjustments. And one thing I love that Kansas did, they pressed the whole second half.
Yeah. Well, Braun to me, too, because it was, you know, it was a sum of all of Kansas's parts. You know, a little bit of Abaji, McCormick when they needed to it. But, and Remy obviously coming off the bench and providing that spark like he's done really through the whole tournament outside of the Duke game.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, outside of the Villanova game, which they didn't need it because they were slapping Villanova around a little bit. Braun was huge to me because when Kansas in the first half was kind of licking their wounds a little bit and they needed a bucket, it was Braun driving, going to the hole and getting a bucket. In the second half, you know, he had a stretch there where there were 3 or 4 possessions in a row where he just went straight to the rack to answer North Carolina. Neither team, I thought, played fantastic. I don't think either team played an excellent game, but each team didn't play a terrible game either. They were locked in defensively. You didn't have a lot of, you know, what we call busted coverages, guys running through the lane. I thought Puff Johnson from North Carolina, Cam Johnson's little brother, showed up in some big moments. You know, I looked at Joe Morgan while Remy and Puff are trading shots, I was like, if this turns into a Remy Martin versus Puff Johnson game, it's going to get really weird at the end. But listen to Bill Self talk about what he said at halftime, and it made a lot of sense. He really said, I didn't say a ton. I didn't have to say a ton. Really what I said was, I'd much rather be down 15 at halftime than down 9 with 2 to go like the last time in this game. So I thought that perspective was good. But when you have senior leadership, you don't have to go in there and give those guys some hoorah speech, hooray speech. And we said at halftime, when we got back from the media room, grabbed a little Coca-Cola, the first 5 minutes of the second half, we always know is huge. Mm-hmm. Kansas had to come out and set the tone. What do? And they did. They come out and they go on an 11-0 run.
They came out and punched them in the face, and it's the largest comeback in NCAA championship history. Mm-hmm. And kudos to Kansas. They came out. I mean, we could see it right there in front of us. They wanted it more, and they went and took it from Carolina. But that's a bad second half loss for Carolina. When you're up if you just come out and lose to Kansas, everyone was favoring Kansas, right? It was expected to lose. If you just lose from the jump and they're just better than you and they beat up on you like they did Villanova, so be it. But that's a bad second half loss for Carolina. I know Caleb Love appeared to be injured. I don't know, what a factor that was. He didn't play well in the second half, but he didn't play that great in the first half either. I thought if Baycott, like I told you guys in the keys to victory, if Baycott and McCormick was a push, I thought Carolina could win the basketball game. Yep. It was more than a push. I mean, Baycott was out playing him.
Well, in North Carolina, I know they only have 6 guys they played. They had 3 guys with a double-double with like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Brady Manick played. He wasn't superb offensively. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, why not get him the ball and take more shots down the stretch? Yeah. Why didn't he take 2, 3, or 4 more threes than he did in the last 10 minutes of that game?
No, I agree. Anytime you get beat by 18 and a half, I mean, you're North Carolina, you're up 15 going into halftime. Caleb Love hadn't been playing fantastic. Mm-hmm. You were more physical than they were in the first half. You were the aggressor with Baycott and Manick, even the guards crashing. R.J. Davis had 7 rebounds, I think, at halftime. And he's not exactly, the tallest guy in the room. I mean, this guy isn't Hakeem Olajuwon out there, grabbing boards. But speaking of boards, Armando Baycott goes down at the end of the game. And you go back and look at the replay, and I know more than one play decides the game, but this is a one-possession game. It was a big moment. He goes to spin, and the board on the floor buckles beneath him. You can see it, bright as day. And we talked about irony. It's like the theme of the show. We talked about how important the boards would be to determine who would win this game, but who knew we were talking about the court? And it almost makes me want to say, enough of this, let's build a court in a football stadium. Why don't we just use normal basketball courts? Why don't we just go to places where the basketball court's not going to buckle on the final possession? That's a horrible look to me. Somebody should be in a lot of trouble for that. Because if you watch the film, you watch the tape, the eye in the sky doesn't lie. And it's not the only reason. I'm not giving North Carolina a cop-out. Kansas won that game. But that was a huge play at the end of the game, and the floor broke. And what the floor broke.
What did Kansas do the second he went out?
Got the ball right down to McCormick.
Right down to McCormick.
Yep, bang, game.
And Manick did the best he could against him. But he turned around and scored the bucket.
Physics are physics at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're lucky. I mean, Baycott wasn't seriously injured.
Oh, you talking about lawsuit?
Seriously injured, because I'm telling you, he could have snapped something extremely quickly. I can't tell you another time I've seen something like that happen.
Me either.
In the biggest game in college basketball this year, that happens. And I think McCormick came down and scored, and then Kansas went up 3.
Yep. It gave him a 3-point.
I think it was 3.
Yeah, it gave him a 3-point line with a minute left or something like that. Stuff like that can happen. And I do think when Caleb Love rolled his ankle, right when that started to happen, you saw Braun started to post them.
Yep. Oh, for sure.
They went right at him. If you're Kansas, you got to do it.
You got to. You're saying go right at him.
You got to.
But hey, if you're Carolina, your superstar Caleb Love had a good look. They went out of bounds right before that. You were given a gift, and your superstar had a good look. On the final shot to get it even. That's all you can ask for.
I'm sleeping night.
Yeah, you can, but you also gave up a 15-point lead in the second half in the national championship game. So I don't know how well you sleep after that. But speaking of sleep, don't sleep on special teams. What happens in special teams? People punt, which is a great segue into
I was wondering how he was going to tie that in. Let's
Sometimes,
punt it.
sometimes you
Well
gotta
done.
take the long path.
It's like Michael Scott naming off the names of
Yeah,
people to remember.
Mr. Webb.
All right, first one. Let's go NFL, all right?
Let's do it.
The Saints acquired 2 first-round picks from the Eagles. The Eagles won this trade. Punt or go?
I'm gonna punt.
Ooh.
I think the Saints are gonna go quarterback, wide receiver.
Ooh.
You really
I know,
do? Even
yeah,
after getting Jameis?
For sure. I think they're going to go quarterback, wide receiver. Jamison Williams went and took a little visit the other day to NOLA. Would be a great piece if you could get him, find a way to get him. I do think the Saints won the trade because I believe in the Saints front office to make good decisions with high picks. I think it was a long-term play. There's some places they need to shore up. We know about some of their deficiencies on the offensive side. So I think the Saints, I'm not going to say won the trade running away, but I think we'll look back. I got to see who they draft. I always say this. It's hard for me to judge. It's hard for me to judge a trade with picks if I don't know
This is the first
picks.
half, right?
You know, it's like that Love is Blind show. Like, we may have a great conversation, but I need the wall to move to be able to see it.
Let me read the full trade details and you tell me what you think, all right? The Saints received 2 2022 first-round picks, 16 and 19, okay? And a 2022 sixth-round pick, number 194. The Eagles receive a 2022 first-round pick, the 18 pick, okay? And a 2023 first-round pick, a 2024 second-round pick, plus a 2022 third-round and seventh-round pick.
Well, if you're the Saints and you made this deal, you obviously have a guy in mind.
Oh, you're
Couple guys.
you put some pegs on the battleship.
And if
board.
it's going to be,
You kinda know
because
where
I
it's
don't
going.
think Jameis Winston is a long-term
No.
deal for the Saints. I don't think anybody does. Obviously, it wasn't Taysom Hill, but I like this by the Saints because one, if you put J-Mo with Alvin Kamara on the same team, and I just feel bad for people who play defense. Like, I don't know how you're going to stop that, but you have to shore up the position that matters the most, and that's the quarterback position. So if you did make this deal, which you did, you better get it right.
Okay, so how about the Eagles side? It seems like maybe they're giving Jalen Hurts one more year, get it figured out, maybe loading up for next year in the first round to go take a quarterback if needed.
Again, I think the Eagles, with where they were from a leverage standpoint and what they could give to other people, I'm always cautious with Philly because Philly, to me, you're like, all right, they're not really going to do anything. They're not really going to do anything. And then they strike, like, for the short term.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is a long-term play, kind of like you're talking about, to feel it out. You make the deal so the Saints have a 16 and a 19 this year in the first round. You got an 18 this year in the first round. You put yourself in position next year in the 2023 draft, like you said, because if you look at this draft class coming up in 2023, it is a very interesting draft class. Draft class at some very interesting places. So I that's why I don't want to say who won or lost the trade, but I don't think it was bad by the Eagles. I think the Eagles, like you said, are going to continue to give Jalen Hurts a chance with that Devontae Smith connection. We've seen some of the moves they've made in the offseason. So I think it was somewhat of an even trade.
Both teams could get better here for sure. Let's stay on the NFL. Daniel Jones is the long-term solution for the New York Giants. Punt or go?
Punt. Daniel Jones, great frame, great arm, great guy, football IQ.
Hard worker?
Tough. He's tough.
Is he a tough kid?
Tough as a
kid.
$2 steak. Shows up. Teammates love him. Parents love him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in him. I know the Giants haven't put a ton around him and Saquon can't stay on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I get that. But nothing about Daniel Jones and the way he plays. To me, he is very kind of Carson Wentz-like in that we see the capabilities. We've seen him be good. But Daniel Jones, I don't believe, has the it factor for me at quarterback, and people are like, all right, what does that mean? I don't trust Daniel Jones when it comes down to it in big games to make big throws. And he still, in my opinion, makes too many bad decisions. Now, you could blame some of those bad decisions in the pocket on not having, players around you and having to try and force it and create stuff. You look what Kyler happened sometime with Kyler. When he tries to create too much, a little bit different situation from what he has. But I look at Daniel Jones, and I think Daniel Jones will be a good quarterback with good tools if you put weapons around him, but not what the Giants want. The Giants don't want good. The Giants, for too long, have well, this happened and that happened. I mean, Eli Manning gave them what they wanted, right? Eli Manning gave them what they wanted. So they've sipped from the cupeth, correct? Mm-hmm. They want Super Bowls. The Giants want Super Bowls, and they've proven that they can win Super Bowls. But, we always quote Stained on here. It's been a while. And Daniel Jones, I don't think, is the guy that is going to lead you to the promised land and that you build the franchise around, in my opinion.
Baker Mayfield? Maybe go get Baker, like a little healthy competition.
Baker in New York?
A little healthy competition.
Is Baker,
maybe push Daniel a little bit.
Are you Baker's agent?
Daniel hadn't had terrible years. He just turns the ball over to Clip that you can't do it.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, he's reaching.
I still think he has a lot in the tank. I still think he can be a good player. I think he has a great arm. He's an athletic guy. He can run a little bit. It's not like the Giants have had a lot of weapons on offense, and that offensive line has not been phenomenal. But long term, I think they need to put someone who will push Daniel Jones, or either push him to get better or push him to get out. And I think that there's some guys in the league right now you can get him. I think one of them is Baker Mayfield.
If we've learned anything in the NFL over the last few seasons, it's that you just cannot win Super Bowls with serviceable quarterbacks.
No, you're not going to have a Trent Dilfer situation anymore.
You just don't have that anymore, right? And maybe the game it's cyclical, right? Maybe it returns to that. You create an unbelievable defense with weapons around, and a serviceable quarterback can win Super Bowls. But this is not the era for that right now. So I don't think Daniel Jones is the long-term solution with the Giants. But it could be a situation, he could still go add value somewhere else. And if he were to do that, this were to be like a Ryan Tannehill leaving situation or an Alex Smith situation, then it's going to start to say more about the Giants and their inabilities to return to the promised land than maybe it does Daniel Jones. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
And he does deserve some weapons around him so we can see.
He does some good things. The turnovers are killer. Yeah. The way Daniel Jones turns the ball over is just the worst. You do this, and oh gosh, it ain't that popcorn.
Season ruiner.
Is this his last season in New York? Or I don't know what his contract.
I think two more. I think they've got. I think they've got to give him again. Saquon can't stay healthy. I
think Saquon's been a bigger bust than Daniel Jones.
Really? For what people
just from a health standpoint,
year,
man.
You can't have a rookie year like that and be called a bust.
I think
how many games he's played.
I think when you're hurt like that, you can be busted up, but I don't think you can call him a bust just because he's been hurt. It's one thing to be a bust because you weren't good enough. It's another thing to be a bust or to be busted up because you were injured.
Well, you can't play if you're not on the field.
Yeah, look, I'm not disputing that. I'm not, saying there's some sort of alternate reality where Saquon played all last year. Believe me, I drafted him on my fantasy team. I want to move past this punt and go for that reason.
It's okay.
First pick.
I watched
Trust tree.
I looked at me and Kevin Costner hung out. I looked at him and said, I'm going to do what's best for the team. Well, and Saquon let me down.
At least you
know what? He is a bust. He's busted.
No, get out of here.
He's buster posing.
Let me be on record for saying
he's buster posing.
At least you didn't.
Not a bust.
At least you didn't pass on Cooper Kupp.
Well, I can understand that. I can understand that. I know it's not Saquon's fault he got hurt. But I believed in you and told all my friends when I made that pick, they thought I was crazy. Turns out they were right. I am crazy.
I saw an Oklahoma drill of Saquon the other day when he was at Penn State.
Yeah, good luck.
And I was like, you got created in a lap.
Yeah.
You're creative.
It's a road to glory player.
How are you supposed to,
No one even touched him in an Oklahoma drill.
So you get like he got a few visits from Nick Fury to join the imagery.
All right, let's move on. NBA. LeBron James will win another championship with the Lakers. Dish or drive?
Ooh.
Coney.
Throw you a curveball.
I'm trying to make sure I give the answer that makes sense.
How about this? Putt or go?
No, dish or drive, I like that. I'm gonna dish.
Is that the putt?
I'm gonna dish. You wanna know why? Because LeBron will never win another NBA championship.
High five.
High five.
You're right.
I just don't. I believe, and I'm not saying LeBron isn't serviceable or. Look at what he's doing right now.
We're not
38
saying he's
years
not
old.
The second greatest player ever.
Yeah.
He is.
I don't believe that with what's coming up in the league, and you see some of the way these teams, and I'm not talking about teams that are super teams. I'm talking about teams that have just drafted well,
Phoenix,
done a good job managing their roster. The Heat,
Grizzlies.
Like you look at some of these teams and some of these younger guys that are coming up, and the way the league's going to be. Father Time catches all of us, and they tried to stack this team. To me, this is somewhat of the swan song for LeBron in LA, right? Where do a lot of people go to retire? In the normal world,
California,
they go to
Florida.
They go to Florida. Where do NBA players go? to sunset a career if they're superstars and make moves?
Yeah.
California.
And European soccer players.
Yeah, that's exactly right. California. It didn't work. The Westbrook, Anthony Davis, LeBron experiment didn't work. And it didn't work for many reasons. Westbrook, I don't think it was ever a good fit with the way he plays. He needs to be ball dominant. That's the way it is. He needs to be the one controlling the ball, kind of running everything, driving the dish, driving the kick. He's a shot creator. He's not a spot up two guy. And LeBron obviously wants the ball in his hands most of the time, and AD wasn't able to stay healthy. So I think there's a little bit of blame to go around for everybody. There's a lot less on LeBron. But as we see LeBron get older, and he's a freak of nature, and I know Bronny's coming in the league, I think it's going to be more now about LeBron, not saying he doesn't want to win, but it's going to become more about Bronny and that situation than LeBron and winning championships and trying to put another super team together. Because think about it. You're 38. How many more super teams and how many more players with all these other young guys that are coming up? We're looking at Giannis, and we're looking at Joel, and we're looking at all these superstars, Ja Morant, all these superstars. Eventually guys are going to be like, no, I want to go make a super team with the guy that doesn't get his AARP card yet. So that's my thing. All right, Blaine, please tell us how LeBron will win every NBA championship.
Will they right this ship or no?
At the Lakers?
Yeah.
No.
Where does he go? Where's she go?
Which super team does he form next?
That's a great question.
He's like, I want to form the Los Angeles Laker Clippers.
Do I think whatever team he goes to has a chance to win a title? Yes, I do. I still think LeBron James is that good. I mean, Father Time has still not caught him by the numbers that he's putting up. I mean, he's still putting up MVP-worthy numbers.
And what, has it caught him in super team decision forming?
No, I don't think so. I think if he gets put in a better situation, all right, I mean, Anthony Davis can't stay healthy. Russell Westbrook can't make a shot. Carmelo Anthony, retire. It just wasn't a good situation. And I do think, will he play probably less minutes and stuff like that? But yeah,
will he be down playing less minutes? So I don't think LeBron's type guy is like, listen, guys.
I mean, unless he wants to. If not, he doesn't have to.
I'm gonna go.
The way he's playing right now, he's playing just as good as he played 3 or 4 years ago.
That's what I'm saying. But it's at some point, if a team like, let's say like a Phoenix or somebody who's got their squad, and they're like, man, how great would it be to get a 41-year-old LeBron?
CP3 is pretty old.
Yeah, yes. I'm not doubting that, but CP3 to me, doesn't have the same mindset as LeBron is.
And I think you're just being hypothetical. If there's a team like that who wanted LeBron to come off the bench,
and they're like, LeBron, you're not going to be the main focus of this team. Would LeBron do it? I don't care if he's 100 years old. I don't think LeBron will do it. I don't care if he's out there Uncle Drew and people.
I mean, why wouldn't you want LeBron to be a main focus of a team?
Because you could already have your nucleus. Like if I'm the Bucks, I'm gonna be like, all right, Giannis, sorry, LeBron, 41-year-old LeBron's gonna come over here and he's gonna be the main focus. I just don't. Eventually, LeBron's gonna get to a point where it's like, all right, you want to win a couple more championships? Why don't you come on over here? Not saying you even got to come off the bench, but it's not going to be LeBron dribble up the court. LeBron, you make all the decisions. LeBron, who we're bringing in. LeBron, what we're eating for dinner. Like it's not going to be
I don't think he would come off the bench. He's going to retire before he would ever. He would never come off the bench.
That's what I'm saying. Eventually, once you stop, once it gets to the point where LeBron is either tired of having to be the guy all the time with the ball,
or is just not the guy,
anymore. Because it's hard to go from the guy to not being the guy.
He could go to a couple places right now, I think, and not be the best player on the team.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you think he's the best player on the planet still. Is he the best basketball player on the planet right now?
No.
Okay, so he could still go to some teams right now and not be the best player on that team.
I agree.
If he does, obviously he's not coming off the bench, right? Even 2 or 3 seasons from now, I think is what you're saying, right?
Yes.
I don't think LeBron wanted to be that at the Lakers.
I don't disagree with that. I think he wanted Anthony Davis to end up to pass that baton,
be better,
to pass that baton and to win several championships. I agree with that actually.
Like, yeah, I mean, if you're going to surround him by phenomenal talent.
Yeah.
Well, the phenomenal talent needs to play better. I don't care if they're 22 or 27, like play better. If you're an MVP or you're an all-star in some kind of form, you have to play better. Anthony Davis, I mean, you've been hurt basically the whole year. Russell Westbrook, Russell Westbrick. Like, I'm not scared to call you that. Like, when you're out there doing this,
he doesn't
calling
like
kids babies, but when you hear that, now
like
your ego's hurt.
Yeah.
But if you're going to form a team like this, I don't think LeBron wants to go out there and play 40 minutes a game. He doesn't want to do that. I think he's the type of guy that will give the reins to someone else. Excuse me, to someone else. Been a lot of yelling.
Oh, we've seen that. We've seen that
Yeah.
when it's come down to the big shot. LeBron will definitely give the reins to somebody.
LeBron
else.
makes the right basketball play. That's what he does. It's
Yeah,
the NBA.
and-
If
yeah.
you're open, make a shot.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we all, you know, we're not going to dive down in this, but we are going to go to the break real quick. We got a couple more punt and goes. If you're
Wanna
done to
get
do
to
it when
them?
we get back, let's
Oh,
do it
yeah,
when we
yeah,
get
yeah.
back.
Yeah, let's do it.
Make sure you go over to thedailywire.com. Become a member. It's cool. It's not super expensive, and it's where all the cool kids hang out. Remember, I said that. Also, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, make sure you subscribe. Leave us a 5-star review. Tell us what you think. Go to our TikTok page, all social medias. Subscribe there as well. We got a ton of content, not only from this trip, that we're going to be putting out moving forward. We'll be right back with some more Punter Go, picks, and shout out to the Booster Clubs.